Shabbat Shalom. I'm Rabbi David Thomas, and I'm honored to be asked to share a few words of Torah with you this morning about Parshat Bamidbar, the very first Parsha in the book of Numbers. Now, in the interest of Hakarat HaTov, in recognizing the good in our lives, I'm going to spare us the inevitable COVID comparisons, and I'll forego any focus on the challenges we're all struggling with of isolation and loneliness. It's not as if those things are not real, of course. It's just that there is so much more to our lived experience than adversity. For a start, let me just say how grateful I am to be with you in this sacred community of Beth Jacob. I also want to note how lucky we are that the weather has been spectacular here in the bold north this spring. And we are acutely aware that warm, sunny days of April and May are not a given. The weather has afforded most of us many opportunities to get out, to enjoy a good walk, to appreciate the hope we find as spring blossoms forth. Flowering trees drop their petals as they thumb their noses at winter snow. The awakening of lush green grass. Animals emerging from into the warm sun, shaking off the chill of winter. Birds alive with song. Sunlight gets an early start these days, and its rays linger well into the evening. We may be socially isolated, but the natural world invites us to wake up, to get out, and to revel in the beauty and wonder of the natural world. I was thinking about all of this as I reflected on that very first word of our Parsha, Bamidbar, in the wilderness. And I realized how strange it is that we never get very much of a description of the Sinai desert. The Israelites spend 40 years there. The entire book of Numbers and much of the retelling of Deuteronomy are devoted to events that occur in the wilderness. But we get not a single word on what it looked like, what wildlife the Israelites encountered, sunrises, sunsets, almost nothing. The word midbar, wilderness, shares a common source with the word daber, speech. How ironic that the voice of the desert is silent in the Torah, much like the voices of women in the Torah. But just like the women, the wilderness is very much there. Not only is it there, it plays a crucial role in our narrative. The wilderness is the place of norming for the nascent Jewish people. It is where their social structure is developed. Rules are fleshed out. Community is organized. The wilderness is the place where Torah is revealed and received. So why doesn't the Torah ever describe the wilderness? Why doesn't the Torah describe nature almost anywhere? Now, to be sure, in Bereshit, we get a few lines about the Garden of Eden. Even there, for such a lush paradise, such a vital place, the description is pretty sparse. You would think that the Torah would paint a lavish picture for us as a testament to the glory of the Creator. Instead, it leaves details mostly to our imagination. Listen to a bit of Genesis. Vayita Adonai Elohim gan ba'eden mikedem, v'yasem sham et ha'adam asher yatzar. V'yatzmach Adonai Elohim et ha'adama kol eitz nechmad lemar'eh, v'tov lema'achal. Ve'etz ha'chaim b'toch hagan, ve'etz hadat tov v'ra. To the east, God Eternal planted a garden in Eden, setting the man there whom God had formed. And then out of the soil God Eternal grew trees alluring to the eye and good for fruit. And in the middle of the garden, the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. A river went forth from Eden to water the garden, and from there it divided and became 4 branches. You see, it's not as if Hebrew doesn't have the words. Elsewhere in the Bible, the authors didn't hold back. Take Psalm 104, for example. God established the earth on its foundations, so it shall never totter. You made the deep cover as its garment. Waters stood above the mountains. They fled at your blast, rushed away at the sound of your thunder. mountains rising, valleys sinking to the place you established for them. You make springs gush forth in torrents. You make the way between the hills, giving drink to all the wild beasts. The wild asses slake their thirst. The birds of the sky dwell beside them and sing among the foliage. You water the mountains from your lofts. The earth is sated from the fruit of your work. You make grass grow for the cattle and herbage for human labor, so that they may get food out of the earth. Even more beautiful, the words of Song of Songs. A garden locked is my own, my bride, a fountain locked, a sealed-up spring. Your limbs are an orchard of pomegranates and of all luscious fruits, of henna and nard and saffron, fragrant reed and cinnamon, with all aromatic woods, myrrh and aloes, all the choice perfumes. You are a garden spring, a well of fresh water, a rill of Lebanon. Awake, O north wind, come, O south wind, blow upon my garden, that its perfume may spread. Let my beloved come to his garden and enjoy its luscious fruits. Such beautiful, evocative images. To be sure, they're used not so much to describe the beauty of nature in its own right, but primarily as metaphor. But in any case, the images are powerful, and the power comes from the divine wonder that exists in the natural world, in all creation. But in the Torah, nature is mentioned in passing, almost grudgingly, only when it's necessary in order to move the plot forward. The rock upon which Jacob rests his head at night, the burning bush that Moses notices in the wilderness as he passes by, and which miraculously is not consumed. Seas split, thunder rains down from the heavens, manna falls from the sky. It seems that the only times the natural world is mentioned is when it's unnatural. I think the problem is that in the Torah, God is transcendent. God exists outside of nature. God withdraws and then creates, manipulates and intervenes in nature. God abrogates the laws of physics, natural laws, by performing miracles. Now, unfortunately, that image of a transcendent God being doesn't always resonate for me. I don't think of God as existing outside of the natural world. I simply believe that God exists, which is to say, God is. God inheres in all being. God is the life force that animates all existence. So the physical world is the most clear and obvious manifestation of God's presence in our lives. As Isaiah said, "Melo chol haaretz kvodo," the whole earth is filled with God's glory. For me, this means that God is the power that gives and sustains life in all existence. God exists eternally in the interconnectedness of all being, the complexity of the natural world. If that is so, then experiencing God in our world ought to be kind of easy. All we really have to do is wake up and pay attention. Look around you. Where can't you find God? God is in the celestial bodies that give light to all the world. God is in the wonder and the beauty of creation. God is in the waterfall and in the rainbow. God manifests in the power of the wind and thunder. God is in the smile of a child. God lives in relationships. You'll find God in the hyphen of all human interaction, in the mitzvot we perform, in justice granted, in compassion expressed, and in the spark kindled by love. Constantly and at all times, God is calling us, "Wake up, I am here." And as for us, we have only to listen and to respond, Hineni. Shabbat Shalom.